Congratulations, babe. You're the very first person into the live. Hello, Aaron. Hope you're doing well. I forgot to warn everybody that I was going to be going live a little bit later tonight. Or actually, did I? Aaron, did I say that last night? I can't remember if I remembered to tell everyone or not, but either way. Hello, here I am. Welcome in everybody to the Soul Group meeting. I hope you all are doing fantastic. For any of you guys who are new to seeing my face or hearing me speak, I think you might have. Awesome. Thank you for the roses, Noel. I really appreciate that. Thank you. The Soul Group is a community that we've started for anyone and everyone interested in spirituality and spiritual awakening and all that entails. It is a support system for community, for us to come together as a community, thank you, Noel, and get to know each other, to share our thoughts and ideas and experiences with each other so that you can see that you're not alone, that your crazy spiritual experience might not be all that crazy, so that we can learn and benefit from each other and support each other. If any of that sounds interesting to you, consider sticking around and seeing if this is for you. We are always looking for new members to join our beautiful community. You will find the members of this community to be among the most welcoming and loving anywhere. Thank you, Vonnie, for your follow. I appreciate that. Welcome in, Empress. Excuse me, guys. So in this community, not only do we share our own experiences with each other, and our thoughts and ideas and beliefs, but we talk about a wide array of topics, quite eclectic, really. We talk about ancient civilizations, we talk about cyclical disaster, we talk about Edgar Cayce, Dolores Cannon, reincarnation, karma, Nikola Tesla. We talk about just about everything that has any relation whatsoever to spirituality. Hello, soul family. So again, if those topics interest you, consider sticking around. We go live here every weekday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and then the main Soul Group meeting is tonight on Saturday, which is usually between 6 and 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. It kind of varies and alters a little bit, but we would love to have you join our community. As long as those things interest you whatsoever. If this is your first time here, if this is your first time seeing my face and this interests you, please introduce yourself if you would, so we can get to know each other, so we can know, so we can put a bit of a voice to the face. And please feel free to share anything that you wish to share with the Soul Group. That's why we're here. That's what this is all about. So tonight, thank you for the hearts, Soul Mom. I appreciate you. Tonight, I kind of wanted to kick off our conversation with a question. A question that was first posed to me in 2012, I believe it was. Danny Girl, thank you for that. Thank you for the earth, sir. I appreciate you, my friend. David, and you have a keen eye, my friend. I do, in fact, have a St. Benedict's pendant. Can we talk more about eating to raise your vibration at some point? Absolutely, Empress. I would love to do that. I want to pose a question to you guys real quick, to the community here. A question that was posed to me in 2012, and I've been trying to answer this for myself for the last decade or so. What does justice mean to you? You guys don't have to answer me. You don't. I mean, I would love it if you did, but you really don't have to do that. But more than anything, I just want you guys to sit with that and maybe answer it for yourself. I talk about an awful lot about the meaning and the importance of words. Because of the way the universe works, everything is energy, vibrating at different intensities and frequencies, right? Whenever you speak and you vocalize, you are taking a vibration of energy and thought form, and you are externalizing it, making it manifest in the physical world, causing waves to ripple outward into the world, which has an effect on the outside world. The frequency that you hold with that emotion and with that thought changes the world around you. Speech is very, very powerful. And I think that most of us tend to take that for granted because we're not taught these things early on. It's just something we're used to, right? Another thing that's really important to me that has been the subject of a lot of realizations and revelations through my spirit guides is that whenever we're communicating with other people, I might use the word justice as an example in a sentence. My definition of what justice means might be vastly different from what justice means for other people. There is an agreed upon definition in the English language and dictionaries of what justice means, right? But we operate in the world through a set of lenses. We perceive our outside world through a set of lenses that is unique to each and every one of us, right? That's our experience, our culture, our beliefs, our upbringing, our childhood, our desires, our passions, all of that is our filters that we perceive the world through. And that changes the definitions that we hold for words. So I invite you guys to wrestle with that a little bit. Let me catch up on my comments before I get too far behind, guys. Noel says it means that what happens was meant to happen. Justice is karma. Being morally right. Thank you. I appreciate you, Noel. Enjoy your Christmas party, my friend. Aaron says, I would say justice to me is a recalibration of balance. I love it. I love all of your guys' answers. Max says fairness. Right or wrong. Okay, you're going to stay on mute. Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Welcome in, Beth. So, justice is a big, big topic. The more you think about this, the bigger it gets, the more complex it gets. The context of what the vibration of justice is can change based on the context, based on the environment, based on what's happening around you. It is also a universal truth, right? And universal truth is a double-edged sword that cuts both ways. This is something that, again, I've said that I've wrestled with for over a decade at this point. And it's really important, right? I think it is important to know big concepts of universal truth for us as individuals. So what I come to as an understanding does not have to be what you come to, right? It is my truth, and you will have your own truth. But just as an example, and it doesn't have to be viewed this way, right? This is just an example. But if you're talking about justice in relation to, let's say, predominant religious systems, okay, look at the difference of what justice meant to Judaism or Old Testament. Look at the Old Testament view of justice versus the way justice has changed according to the New Testament of Christianity. There is a huge chasm of difference there. You could essentially boil down all of the Old Testament view of justice very precisely to say eye for an eye, which basically means if some guy were to kick in my door and rob me, then it would be just of me to kick in his door and rob him back, or to retaliate in equal measure, whatever that looks like. In societies that participate in eye for an eye view of justice, if you were to say you're starving to death, worse yet, your children are starving to death, and there's nothing you can do to provide for them, and you are watching them slowly waste away, suffer, and starve in immense pain and suffering. And then you happen to be walking by an open air market, and you snatch a loaf of bread and run back to feed your starving children. An eye for an eye justice system would say, well, he stole, so we're going to chop his hand off. That is a pretty big difference of what justice is based or in comparison to the New Testament. Hammurabi's Law. Sorry guys, bear with me. I don't want to get behind on my comments again. The Bible doesn't seem credible to me. Too many impossible stories. We talk an awful lot about that in here, my friend. And let me just start by saying, first of all, I don't put myself in a box of any religion. I believe that religion, in summation, any religious system, is a system of control by its essence. That's what it is designed to do, is to control and subjugate. The difference between religion and spirituality is that religion says you need a mediator to act on your behalf, to mediate between you and the divine. Like the church, like a priest, like the clergy, whatever it is. Spirituality says the divine is within you. You don't need mediation. So there's a big difference for me between religion and spirituality. I do not consider myself to be a member of any religious system. And I talk at length about the many issues with Christianity and Judaism and all of that. I'm just using those two as an example of the differences, the different views of what justice means. Thank you for sharing this live, Brock. I really appreciate that. I feel that the definition of justice is very much determined by perception. Yes, and I think that could go along with a lot of different things. David says, I believe justice is to adjust the circumstances to God's righteousness and His word for truth. Justice is the closest to an equal reconciliation for all parties involved. People usually have reasons that they feel committed an injustice. Exactly. Yeah, I see that. Because Jesus took our place in sin. Okay, so I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole. I really just wanted to use Judaism and Christianity to contrast differing views on justice. So let me ask you this. Based on your guys' individual views of justice, 50K. What would justice be? How would justice be served in your guys' mind as an individual, you personally? How would justice best be served? Let's just do a little imagination trick here. Imagine that this is immediately following World War II and the extermination of over 6 million Jews, and you are sitting on the chair for the War Crimes Tribunal, and you are hearing talks given and trying to decide equal balance for justice on people who committed crimes against humanity, officers, maybe in the Nazi Party, who presided over the death of millions of people. What would justice look like to you then? Does it look like eye for an eye? How would you serve justice? Or do you think, first of all, I guess I should ask you guys, do you think that we have any part in justice whatsoever? Or do you think that that is something outside of the realm and scope of humanity that is only dealt with and served by God? There is a reason I'm asking you guys this. It's something that I've wrestled with for a very long time. And you guys most of you have heard me talk long enough about my views and my opinion and my beliefs that you can probably surmise how I would answer that question if I was the one to sit there and decide somebody else's fate on something like that. I just got a letter for jury duty. Is that why this came up? How interesting. I must say, I have served on a jury before. I was actually the jury foreman, and it was a very interesting experience. And I most likely turned the entire tide of the verdict because of my viewpoints on that, right, wrong, or indifferent. I think that it's a very important thing to do that. And I had a completely different attitude going into it. I had a completely different attitude going into it. But once I sat there and listened to the case and realized that, this isn't a game, like this will decide somebody's fate, essentially will decide the next decades of this person's life, it became very serious. Right, and I had to think very carefully about the decision and very carefully about what justice meant to me. Arlena says you are placed in the same position of the person you harmed in your next life at least. We should have part for safety, but I'd wait for 2 or 3 years and have them in the dungeon until then. Trailblazer said that's God's judgment. I'm assuming by the St. Benedict medal that you're anti-death penalty. Just want to grill. Interesting name, my friend. I'm not Catholic. I'll say that. I do not believe in religion, period. I think the religion is a system of control. But I will say this. I do not believe that we have the right authority or any means by which we should be taking another person's life. That is my own personal opinion. So my views that I have shared with you guys in the past that touch on this is that I believe that God is universal. That you cannot separate anything in existence from God. That God is not a separate entity that exists in the sky, riding on a cloud, sitting on a throne, casting judgment down upon his creation. I view God as you and me and everything that lives and breathes, everything that exists, the rocks, the trees, the air that we breathe, the animals, the totality, the summation of all life is conscious energy. And that vast sea of consciousness is God, in my opinion. So it becomes a tricky situation for me whenever I'm wrestling with what is justice, right? Because here in the third dimension, we have the right to exercise our free will. We can either live in alignment with that divinity within us, or we can choose to be controlled and express our energy through the lower energetic centers, the lower drives and hungers, and we can be responsible for all sorts of monstrous things. That is the reality of the world. This reminds me of the prison study that people involved completely change their normal demeanor. Yeah, that's a little terrifying. The way of the world and the ways of God is different. I do agree with you, my friend. Margarita Rosario. I lost my son to police brutality. Wish for the criminals go to jail. Don't hate every cop. I'm very happy to hear you say that, and I am very sorry for your loss and your suffering, my friend. I don't feel like I can judge anyone by their actions because I have not walked in their shoes. Beth, for me, that is kind of the high road taken by Yeshua, by Jesus, is that we cannot judge anyone. If you judge somebody, then you will be judged by the manner in which you judge others. And I've told you guys before, my personal opinion on that is I think the way that works is when we die, and then we're on the other side, I don't think that God sits on the throne and then reads a long list of our transgressions and says, this will be your punishment based on all of these transgressions. I think the reality is that once we are free of the confines, the enmeshment of third dimensional reality, and we move into the spirit world, the veil is lifted. And then we have the bird's eye view, the 30,000 foot view. We see the totality of all life, the way that we played our part in that, the way our actions affected everything else around us. And then we judge ourselves based on the actions that we lived in that life. And then we carry out our own sentences and we decide what we're going to do to learn the lessons to keep from doing those things again. That's just my own personal opinion, right? I'm not declaring that to be universal truth. That's just what I believe. Another key element of this, of what justice means for me, is Socrates. I know I go back to Socrates a lot, but I am a firm believer in Socrates' philosophy. I truly believe that the divine lives within us, that each of us is a unique fingerprint of God that does not exist anywhere else. And each of us is here to fulfill a specific function for the rest of all life. Not just ourselves, not just our close friends and family, but the entire world. There is a specific function out there that only you can fulfill. And if you don't bring that forth and fulfill it, no one else is going to step up and do that for you. The world just will not have the benefit of that. So to me, let's say you're on the War Crimes Tribunal, right? You're really, really upset. Like, you can't even articulate the level of emotion that would be involved with somebody who has reigned over the extermination of a race, essentially. It's unfathomable, right? But let's just say you're on the chair to decide the fates of one of these commandants. If you were to say, execute them, right? Is it truly justice if you take that person out of society? If you make it to where they are physically incapable of fulfilling their specific function? We don't know what that specific function is, right? What if that person was to have a complete 180-degree turn, the light is ignited within them, and then they become the next Yeshua? What if they are to lead humanity into bridging this gap and correcting the imbalance in the world, and we hand down that sentence to execute them because we think that by removing them from society, that we will prevent them from doing any further harm? Exactly. Two wrongs don't make a right. That's kind of what I'm getting at with that. Now let me see what I've missed here. I think you're right on that. I can say the supernatural beyond that we can see exists, and not everything is in God's alignment. That has certainly been my experience, David, and I do agree with you on that. No worries, Aaron. That's why I would keep them locked up. Yeah, it is hard. It's a very difficult thing to wrestle with. And for me, this all goes back to the original roots of Judaism, of what it means to be an Israelite. back to where Jacob wrestles with God. And his name is forever changed on the other side of that to Israel, which means he who wrestles with God. I don't think that the meaning of that story is that we physically get into an altercation with God and see who has the best ground game, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong here. But what that means to me is somebody who wrestles with God is somebody who takes something like this, like the concept of justice, and then you wrestle with that concept. You wrestle with the scripture. You wrestle with your own wisdom and understanding and attempt to elevate your consciousness from being enmeshed in the third dimension so that you can see that 30,000 foot view, so that you can see the big picture. That's what it means to me to wrestle with God, to try to elevate ourselves, to ascend to that level so that we can carry out something such as justice, or at least make sure that we're not further throwing things out of balance. Because for me personally, if I was sitting on the War Crimes Tribunal, say this person personally reigned over the execution of 1,000 souls, which means, according to Socrates, the world no longer has the benefit of the specific function of these 1,000 people. The possible effects of that are unfathomable. That is something that we cannot even begin to understand. If you consider the butterfly effect, the tremendous effect that we each have on the world by exercising our energy. Like everything about us affects everything around us in ripples. Those ripples grow until they change the entire world. And now you're talking not about one person, but 1,000 people. Think of the way that has altered the course of history in the world. Now, to me, if I was to say that person needs to be beheaded or hung or electrocuted or whatever it was, I am furthering that imbalance, because now there's 1,001 souls who no longer have the ability to fulfill their specific function in this world. I hope that makes sense to you. No, I'm not saying that we should just be like, all right, you're good to go, give them a pat on the back. To me, a person in a situation like that, thank you, White Bear, I appreciate you. I think that, especially in the United States, when we're talking about the Department of Corrections, I think that we have lost oh wow, thank you for the hanging lights, my friend. I think we've lost the concept of re-educating, of reintegrating into society, of taking somebody who has done something that is unjust in the eyes of the law, and then rehabilitating them to where they are a fully functioning member of society and no longer causing any harm. That no longer happens. Now what it is it is a prison for profit, which is one of the biggest industries in the United States, where there is no justice served, where we are further affecting the imbalance in the world in the name of greed and profit, but there's no rehabilitation going on. We're not teaching that person what is justice. What is your contribution to society, right? And so I think the answer for me personally would be to remove that person from society, yes, so that they're no longer causing harm and creating further imbalance in the world. But not to go and beat that person mercilessly for the next 50 years of their life, but to teach that person compassion, to teach that person the full weight and terror of what they have done, to teach them what it means to be a human being, to have compassion, to have love, to live your authenticity and bring forth your energy that is unique to you to fulfill your specific function, and teach them how to be a human being, so that one day they could reintegrate back into society and perhaps correct some of the imbalance that they have caused in the world. Because if you say just execute them, you're only furthering the problem. You're only creating further imbalance. Let's see if I missed anything here. Margarita says, when you believe and trust God, He will find a way for justice. Murdering a murderer is still murder. You can try to teach them, but you won't succeed if you're not ready for it. Well, I agree with you, Arlena. The same goes for anybody with anything. Whether you're trying to stop a bad habit such as smoking, or quitting drinking alcohol, or not exercising, or having a negative mindset in the world, whatever it is, no amount of outside influence is going to change that for you. You have to change that for yourself, and you have to want to change that for yourself. But I think for me, that is the closest thing we can come to justice, in my personal opinion. I don't think that we have anywhere near, not even a speck of wisdom that it would take to see the totality of what justice truly is. And I think that justice is a universal truth. It is a universal energy of the way that the world works. And I think that it is carried out in many different ways, which is why the world can seem so unjust to us sometimes. Because, you guys know, I believe in reincarnation. I believe in karma. I believe that is justice being dealt out from the 30,000 foot view that we are incapable of. And it does not look just to us because we're looking through a tiny little hole in the sheet, right? We're just barely getting to see a little tiny sliver of light and thinking we can see the totality of everything that's happening. Like whenever, you meet somebody who seems like they are just one of the worst human beings to walk the face of the earth. But it seems like that everything good just keeps happening for that person. They might be like obscenely wealthy. They might have the most amazing group of friends. They might, have just thing after thing after thing just gifted to them. Like the universe is conspiring in their favor. And you're like, what in the world is going on? You're like, this just doesn't make any sense, right? We're only seeing a tiny bit of the puzzle there. We're not seeing the whole thing. And that, to me, it's because the way karma is dealt. And again, I think we do that for ourselves. I think that's what happens with our oversoul, who sees the 30,000 foot view and decides, this was in misalignment. This was bringing about some energetic contribution to an imbalance, and it needs to be corrected. So we're going to live out these lessons in the next lifetime in order to correct the situation and learn those lessons so we no longer create further imbalance. Bastoy Prison Island in the Norwegian prison. Okay. Aaron said, I'm with you wholeheartedly. Some who can't be rehabilitated should stay separated. But we should still give them the chance. Either way, to me, and the way I see it, this isn't coming from a place of righteousness, right? This isn't necessarily me being like, I'm morally superior because I don't think it's correct to execute somebody. That's just me seeing that if you have 1,000 people who've lost their lives, taking the person who killed them and then killing them just makes 1,001 people who've lost their lives. So you're just digging a deeper ditch. You're digging an extra grave. And that does not benefit anyone or society in any way, shape, or form. So, I don't know. There you go. That's my idea of justice that I've come to. And I think now I know why I felt like I needed to talk about that with you guys. Exactly. And it brings back a nobody. So who was it that wanted to talk about food? I don't remember which one of you guys it was. Was that you, Empress? Unless you guys want to continue talking about justice. If you guys have any other further thoughts or opinions that you want to share. Welcome in, Danielle. So, I guess we can go ahead and shift gears. It is kind of odd. It is an odd thing for me to desire to talk about. It's probably the first time that I've been like, hey, let's talk about what justice means. So, it's amusing to me that justice on the spiritual journey. Justice, period. Justice as a universal concept. Home run. Well, I hope that this conversation, at the very least, has sparked interest for you guys to wrestle with that concept for yourselves, because I think it's very important. And although we might not individually ever be responsible for deciding another person's fate, we do throughout life exercise the concept of what justice is to us whenever we decide what is right or wrong, what is just, what is righteousness, what these things mean to us. Absolutely, Arlene, and thank you, my friend. So we can switch gears now. We can talk about raising your vibration with food. But how would you even know the outcome? That's essentially one of the points that I made in the conversation, my friend. We have a very finite and limited scope of perception here enmeshed in the 3D reality. We see the world through a hole poked in the sheet. We don't see the whole totality of what's going on. And so justice, for me, the best that we can hope to accomplish is essentially education. That's what I personally believe. I don't think that any attempt on our part to execute justice is ever going to be effective, because we don't have the right information. We don't have the wisdom required. We don't have the insight and the perception. Empress said, this definitely made me take a look at my view on the death penalty. Empress, just know one of the main reasons that I brought this up is because I personally wrestled with this for a decade or more. Because I used to have that view. I used to think if some crazed drug addict kicked in my door while I was away at work and murdered my family, I don't even want to go there imaginarily. It would be a very, very, very tough thing. These things are not even easy to talk about, right? Much less live these things in the real world. It's one thing to talk about something and have a high position, right? It's a completely different thing to do that in real life. And that's why it's so difficult. That's why concepts like this are rarely discussed and rarely talked about. It is a much easier thing to not really wrestle with this. To just kind of be like, yeah, whatever, and then just brush it aside. It's still not letting you pin stuff, huh? Interesting. Make judgment calls daily. Exactly, we all do that. I feel that justice is something we're going to need to think on with upcoming events. That is another important reason, Aaron, because, again, you guys know my view with what's going on in the world. It's all about balance. And justice is the execution of balance. in my opinion. If we were to boil that down to its essence, it is maintaining the equilibrium of balance. And justice is the scales of which way that balance is tipped and how to correct and restore that balance. And that's why this is a timely topic, because the world is very much out of balance. And we might not personally be responsible for the state of the world, for the world affairs, and for all of the grave injustices that are carried out each and every moment worldwide. But we will be the ones here on the other side of this, left to pick up the pieces to correct the imbalance in the world and to decide what justice is, right? Of course, the universe is the one who's going to actually carry that out. But just as the information that came through Dolores Cannon said when talking about the new Earth, I don't think that the new Earth is some magical frequency that exists in the world and that we have to raise our vibration and ascend to, and then we will be moved from this madness as we shift out of the 3D into the 5D. I think the new Earth is something we must create for ourselves. We have to bring that into being, into reality, that the new Earth will be created in the hearts and the minds of this generation. And so wrestling with the concept of what justice is, I personally feel is pretty timely. Okay, Empress said more specific, eating to raise a vibration on a ramen noodle budget. Okay, let me get to the end of this comments real quick so I'm not far behind, then we'll pick that up. Justice can't be delivered fairly when racism, classism are openly used in court as a tactic. Yeah, and another important point to that, Kim, is there is a huge difference between what is just and what is lawful. And our system, and especially in Western society, is not a system of justice. It is a system of legality. It is a system to where if you have enough money to hire a good lawyer, a good attorney, who can mince words and find loopholes and weasel your way out of something, regardless of how terrible of a human being you have been, then justice, according to our law system, would say, set this person free. They're free to go. Because they found a loophole in the legal system, right? It has nothing to do with justice. It has to do with legality. And there's a huge difference between those two. I could defend to the death, but it's no longer defending after the fact. Much love, Crystal. It's good to see you again. Exactly. It's not justice. I mean, if it happened to my family, it's hard to know how you feel. Exactly. That's the point I was trying to make, Arlena. It's easy to sit here behind a computer screen and have this debate and conversation with you guys and take the high route. But when you're the one having to decide in your heart what justice means, what it means to you, that is a different thing entirely. People like you help keep the balance. Man, I really appreciate that. Thank you, my friend. You guys are so awesome. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears now. Arlene said, no, I would not. I don't ever hurt spiders. That's funny. So, Empress said specifically, let's talk about eating to increase and raise your frequency and vibration. I agree with you, Kelly. That's one of those things that we don't truly know. We can speculate, but until we're there, it's hard to say. There was a huge trapping of bad spirits, which is also something. Okay, so one general rule of thumb that I've brought up and mentioned numerous times is that You said specifically, and I just realized I left out the important part of that for you there, Empress. You said specifically, how do you eat to raise your frequency and vibration on a ramen noodle budget, right? That's the important part there, because I can give you 1,000 excellent ideas, but if you can't afford to execute those ideas, then they're worthless to you. So, keeping that in mind, first of all, let me say, ramen noodles is perhaps one of the worst things you can possibly consume. I'm not saying I've never eaten ramen noodles, but it is a processed noodle, and there is something about it, because of the way that it is processed, that your body cannot break down. It does not break it down right. Your stomach struggles with breaking it down, and it can actually cause metabolic syndrome. It can cause all sorts of issues with your digestion by eating that. So it's one of those things that, like, you get what you pay for. Sometimes, unfortunately, we're in situations where we can't afford, to go eat the highest quality foods and everything. But the absolute best advice I think I could give anybody, regardless of how much money you have, is that at some point you will be able to eat, right? So whatever you eat, I think more important than what you're eating is how you're eating it. Just bear with me. I'm going to expound on that a little bit further. Let's say that, we'll just pick something. Okay, let's just go with a chicken sandwich. Let's say that on one hand, you can go to McDonald's and get a chicken sandwich and eat that. On the other hand, you can go to Grandma's, and Grandma's going to cook for you a chicken sandwich. Which one are you going to choose? If it is nutritionally equivalent, meaning it is exactly the same chicken, exactly the same process, exactly the same everything, I understand it wouldn't be, but just bear with me. If it was exactly the same sandwich, but one was made by McDonald's and one was made by Grandma, you're going to want to eat the one from Grandma, because Grandma is not impersonal, first of all. Grandma is not somebody struggling to make ends meet, stuck in a low-wage, soul-sucking job, and high-pressure situations where they are treated negatively and with anger and resentment and pure hatred for 8 hours a day, struggling to make their ends meet, spewing their negativity and their energy into the food that they are creating, right? Grandma loves you. Grandma loves to cook you food. She is nurturing you with her energy. She is pouring her love for you into that chicken sandwich. That's the difference. And do not discount the difference that is, because it is huge. And I think that is very much more important than the food. Don't get me wrong. What you eat is huge. It's tremendous. But if you can't control that for whatever reason, whether it's time, whether it's finances, maybe you're stuck in a situation where it's completely beyond your control for whatever reason. If you can control the energy, meaning you're the one that prepares the food, or you can decide who prepares the food, and you can control your energy when you consume that food, then you have a huge leg up on somebody who does not do those things. Okay, let me catch up on the comments, and then I want to continue with this. Arlena says you also need to think about how much it would cost when you get sick because of eating bad food. That is an important consideration. Hack says the secret ingredient is love. Exactly. And another excellent point, raising your own food is the best, and I do agree with you on that. I'm making food right now. Thanks for reminding me. I'm glad that I could, my friend. It is a very powerful thing, and it should not be discounted, that it's not just water. I'm sure that most, if not all of you guys, have heard about water memory, about how the energy that you are imbuing is imprinted into the water. It remembers it. It changes the crystalline structure. And so whenever you drink that water, because we're mainly water, it changes our body. It changes our energy. It changes our vibration. You can very powerfully change your vibration for the better by setting your intention with water. You can set the intention that that water will be very powerfully balancing to you and uplifting and increasing to your frequency and vibration, that it will nurture your soul and your spirit and elevate your consciousness. Pray over your water. Set that intention and then let it go. And it will have tremendous effects on you. It costs $0 to do that. You can do that very thing with your food. Many people discount the power of those things. There's a reason why people have been praying over their food for thousands of years. It's not just religious superstition. Although, for most people, unfortunately, I think it becomes a matter of habit, habitual. It's empty and hollow, without any true energy, potential, emotion, or intention behind it. It's just, this is the thing to do, so we're going to do it. And that's probably not nearly as effective. But you can control those things on what you eat. Don't diss ramen noodle soup. I'm telling you, ramen noodle is not good for you one bit. Oh, and look into combinations of foods biblically. Yeah, there's some really important information about that. Kim says a study showed an 18% increase on food, organic food, versus 18% increase on healthcare with bad food. Interesting. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I understand. It makes sense, but I did not know there was a study where they had looked at that. Healthy foods equals vibrating on a higher frequency. Again, I do think the food that you eat matters tremendously. But my point is, you can control the energy of how you are eating food, the intentions that you set with the food, and the energy that is poured into the food before you consume it. And it costs $0. So, for somebody operating on a tight budget, trying to be healthy and increase their vibration, that is probably the number one thing I would start with. You can do that for absolutely free. And I would not just pray over the food and bless the food, whatever that looks like for you. I would make sure that you are eating that food, you are consuming it with gratitude in your heart, grateful for the nourishment that it is giving you. Set the intention that it is raising your vibration, that it is removing toxins from your body, that it is building you up and increasing your frequency. And I assure you, you will see a tremendous difference when you do that. It's also equally as important that if you are in an ill mood, if you are incredibly depressed, angry, anything like that, any of the dark, low vibration energies, you're better off to just not eat. You're much better off to say, okay, I'm going to fast until my mind is right, until my energy is right. Because what happens when you do that, you are imbuing your food with that toxic energy, and then you're consuming it. You're eating poison. You're much better off to just not eat until you can get your energy at a lot better place. Hey, Melanie. You're very welcome, Empress. I'm not done talking about it, by the way. There's still more we can talk about that could be helpful for you guys. When I started doing that, I know it's the food. It's the food case is better. Thank you, Freddie, for your follow. I appreciate that. I didn't know that about not eating when energy is bad. Yes, that is actually vitally important. And it's not just that you're, the most important thing is that you are pouring that energy into the food, which is why fast food is so bad for you. Because if you think about the majority of the people who are working in fast food, they're not happy to be working in fast food. They're not getting fulfillment from that. It does not give them joy, right? They're not imbuing it with nurturing love for you, most of them. Their stress, their frustration, their anger, maybe even their resentment or rage, God forbid, could be poured into that food, which is already basically the nutritional equivalent of dirt. It's already very low quality food, and then it's imbued with all this negativity. That's why you should stay away from foods like that. But yes, Edgar Cayce was very adamant about that. If, especially in connection with other people, if, let's say you're in a romantic relationship, let's just say tonight my wife's going to cook me supper, and I said something that was ill-advised. It was a bad move. But let's say I said something that really hurt her, and now she's very angry and upset. But she still loves me, so she's still going to cook food. She's still going to be infusing all of that food with her anger towards me. Not intentionally, I hope, but it's still going to happen. So you're far better off to just be like, let's just not do that. Let's sit here and work through this, right? It's the same thing with sleep. You don't ever want to go to sleep angry. Fix that before you go to sleep. You're better off to just not sleep that night than you are to go to bed and go to sleep in a foul mood, because you are setting the stage to wallow in that for the entire night. You live 10 minutes from the ARE? Wow. Oh, thank you for the paper crane. I'm a little envious of that, I gotta admit. I hope that you've been there. I would absolutely love to go and check out their library in person. I'm a member of the ARE, so I get to digitally look through all of the readings and stuff like that, but I've never physically got to go to the library. I would love that. My wife says, knew this was coming. Yeah, good point, Brock. More nutrition in dirt than ramen. Absolutely. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. My wife loves cooking, and her food makes me happy. There is a tremendous difference, guys. I do mean that. You will notice it. There is a tremendous difference. Even if it is the same thing. Even if you're stuck eating ramen noodles, then imbue that stuff with all of the love and nurturing energy you can possibly muster. Seriously. Like, if that's what you're stuck with, that's all you can afford, that's all you have in your pantry, then eat it. But set that intention, bless the food, set the intention that it will be nourishing and supportive and healthy, and then make that with love. Visualize it as you cook it. Visualize it nourishing your body, going to all of your cells, and feeding them life and energy and love, and increasing your vibration. You can visualize that. The more that you do that, the more powerful this is, because we are creators. Our minds create the world around us. And you can greatly affect the nutritional value of food doing that, especially the energy of it. If you eat healthy, you won't have bad energy. Most people don't know what eating healthy is, though. Well, I agree with you on that. And I also believe, just as with spirituality, I don't think there's a cookie cutter system that is universal, that says if you do these steps, X through Z, you will achieve ascension and enlightenment. I think if there's 8 billion souls on the planet, there's 8 billion paths, spiritually speaking. I think pretty close to the same thing whenever it comes to health and nutrition. There are guidelines, right, just with spirituality. There are certain universal concepts, but the road to get there is going to look different for each of us. And I think personally, one of the best indicators of what that looks like for each of us individually is our microbiome, our ability to digest food and absorb nutrients from it, because it's different for each of us. Certain foods that are considered superfoods and would completely turn most people's health around might be toxic to your system. It just depends on you, on your body, on many different factors. My aunt taught me that. Awesome. You spoke in there and at Lilydale. Wow. That is awesome, my friend. Christine said, what is the ARE? That is the Association for Research and Enlightenment. It is an organization that was created by Edgar Cayce. And I see that Anna already beat me to the punch. I'm glad this is helping you, Empress. I think this is excellent information in general. Not just for you, but for all of us. Myself included. Lotus Foods makes millet and brown rice, ramen noodles that you can cook in organic veggie broth. Interesting. I did not know that. Yeah, time to thrive. I completely agree with you. I don't know if you were here whenever I said that early on at the beginning of the live, but I said essentially that ramen noodles is among the worst things a person can possibly consume. It can cause metabolic syndrome because it's so heavily processed, because of the MSG, because of all the chemicals in it. Anna says, I visualize every cell in my body to rejuvenate each cell. That is awesome. I love that, Anna. Thank you. Have you heard of people who stop eating altogether? I think it's called. I have heard of that. I have mixed emotions about that. I will say I am not there, my friend. I need food, at least at this point in my life. KCR, I love your explanation. It's a spiritual mecca built on the teachings of the sleeping prophet. I love that. Good evening, Kay. Was hiking. That's beautiful. Okay, so one more aspect that I want to touch on this before we move on is something that I learned from the most unlikely of sources. And do not discount the importance and power of this, I implore you. I actually learned this method and this technique from Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I know what that sounds like. I know that many of you guys probably have, or all of you guys have your own opinion and view of Arnold Schwarzenegger as a person. For those of you who know who I'm talking about, which is probably darn near everybody. He wrote an autobiography, and it was actually a very powerful and tremendous book. One of my all-time favorites. I was blown away. Did not expect that at all. But it was so full of useful insights and very important information on how to utilize things like the law of attraction, how to manifest, the whole layout of how to do that, how to design your life, and then go live it and create those things, are all laid out in his autobiography. It was a very unlikely source of information for me. I did not see that coming. I don't know, the dude's massively successful and very... Yeah, I'm glad that you know that. Most people do not. Most people say he's an actor, right, and he became governor. That's huge. Like, I'm not, right? I have never been the governor of the 5th largest economy in the world, right? I've never been the #1 box office star for decades. I've never went from moving to America with $75 to my name and becoming a millionaire in a country where I know nobody and I don't speak the language. Those things are tremendous, right? He was hugely successful. Yeah, exactly, an immigrant. But anyway, we can talk about him at some point if you guys would like to, because he is somebody that I look up to. His story is very powerful. But let me tell you one of the most important things that I learned from Arnold Schwarzenegger. Whenever he went to the gym and worked out, everybody else that he was working out with, they would be miserable. They would be like, gosh, I just got to hurry up and get through this, and and I got to lift all this weight, and like they're just sitting there, they're miserable about it, right? They just wanted to hurry up and get it over with. They know they need to do it because they're trying to, they're bodybuilders. They're trying to get in shape. They're trying to compete. So they know they've got to do these things, but they're looking at it like, I have to do these things. They're looking at it like, this is an obstacle that I have to suffer through, and then I can go on about my life. Arnold Schwarzenegger took a vastly different approach to that. He said, this is where I'm at in life, point A, right? I want to be the best bodybuilder who has ever walked the earth. That was his goal. I realize that's not your goal. It's not mine either, but that's not important. He said, I'm right here. I want to be right here. So what do I need to do to get from here to here, right? And for him, whenever he went to the gym, let's say he had to do 100 reps of squats with like 500 pounds on his shoulders. Instead of looking at it like this vast mountain of something he has to suffer through and do, he rejoiced with each squat that he did, seeing it as him taking one step towards his goal. With every repetition he did, he would say, I am one step closer to my ideal. And then he wouldn't stop there. He would visualize it. He would visualize in his mind as he did these things, him getting stronger, him moving closer to his ideal physique. And done this with every aspect of his life, by the way, not just with bodybuilding. And that's why I'm telling you this, because this applies across the board, universally. Let's say you're trying to eat healthy on a ramen noodle budget. You can apply this technique, right? You can visualize that whenever you're eating that food, that it is getting you one step closer to increasing your vibration and your frequency. You can see it in your mind. You can feel it. Every time that you say, I really want to eat this piece of chocolate cake, but I know that's taking me the wrong way, so I'm going to eat some spinach, maybe a handful of almonds, or whatever it is for you, right? If it's not something that you particularly enjoy, which personally I think spinach is amazing, but let's just say it's not something you enjoy, but your body needs it. You need to eat it for your health. See it for what it is. See it taking you where you need to be with each repetition, each time you do it. See it and believe it, and it's powerful. And that's why Arnold Schwarzenegger, an immigrant with no money in a country where he knew not a single person and didn't even speak the language, held close to the highest position of power that you can. Actually, the highest position you can hold, essentially, as an immigrant. And he became one of the most successful Americans in history because of the way that he did these things. I do his stomach vacuums. Cynthia, I agree 100%. He rode it like a wave. I get to do these things instead of I have to. Exactly. That mindset and that mentality is tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. One of the biggest concepts that I like about this, I've talked a lot about the difference between what Satan is for Judaism and what Satan is for Christianity, right? In Christianity, Satan is seen as this almost equal but opposite force in direct opposition to all that is good in the world. A force of evil that is there to watch the world burn and suck every energy and soul possible into the depths of some eternal lake of fire, right? In Judaism, it's vastly different. Satan is seen as the opponent, an angel of God that is there doing God's work to give us opposition, to provide opposition so that we can overcome it, so that we can be strengthened by it. Just like somebody who wants to get stronger, right? If you were to go to the gym and stand there and move a bunch of air all day long, you're probably not going to get strong, right? But we have resistance, right? We have iron plates you can stack on bars that are resistant to your movement. So every time you lift that, you are struggling against that resistance and you are building strength. That is the difference between Satan of Judaism and Christianity. Satan is providing traction, opposition, and resistance for us so that we can overcome it and grow as people. If you apply that mindset to every area in your life, like say tomorrow or Monday I go to work expecting to hear back about this promotion, expecting to be told, hey, you've got the job, you're the next supervisor. And instead I get there and they're like, things have changed, there's been this massive budget cut, and I'm afraid we're going to have to let you go. Right? Let's just say that happened. There's a couple of different ways that could go. I could completely snap and flip out and lose it because my stability has been threatened, and now I have nowhere to go. I have no job. I have 11 kids. I don't know how I'm going to provide for my family. I could see it as that. I could see it as woe is me. The world has taken, whatever. That's how I could see it. Or I could say, good. Now I am free to live out my purpose in this world. Good. Now I can struggle and learn to build wealth for myself and create my own company and work for myself and be free from the limitations of trading my time for money in a contract working for somebody else. Good. Now I won't have to be away from my family 4 or 5 days a week every week. You can choose to see that in every area of your life. Anytime something comes up, it doesn't matter how terrible it is. There's good in it. There's always good in it. And I know there are times when things happen whenever you say there's no way there's possibly anything good in this, right? And it's hard to see that sometimes. But there is a lesson in all of the terrible things that happen to us. Even if it is just to make us stronger, you can say, good, this is going to hurt me. I am going to get stronger because of this. This is not going to destroy me. I am going to get stronger because of this. Great mindset and dedication. Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a tremendous human being, by the way. Thank you, Hack. I appreciate that. Cynthia says, I remember when I was younger, I didn't have any money for food, but I had a garden in the backyard. But I was complaining about it. To grow to become a better person with a better life. I don't know. I think the biblical God keeps Satan around for about the same reason. I agree with you there. I do think that. But the mentality, or I guess even really the doctrine, mainstream Christian doctrine, kind of paints this opponent figure or energy as diametrically opposed, meaning it's not doing the will of God, but is almost like fighting against God, trying to overthrow God and rule the world, essentially. Now, I'm not saying that every Christian sees it that way, but there is that kind of belief within that religious tradition. I love that, Brock. My house needs clean. My laundry needs done. No, I have a house. I have clothes. That's huge. That's been my mantra for years. Exactly. No rainbow without the rain. So, again, you can apply that to any area of your life. And I think that is important with this conversation of how to eat to raise your frequency and vibration on a ramen noodle budget. More to that point, I don't know about your specific situation, Empress, or anybody else who's dealing with this, but it costs virtually nothing to grow your own food if you do it correctly, assuming that you can come up with any patch of soil where you have the ability to grow food. Like, I don't know, you might live in New York City and be 5 miles from the nearest patch of soil. You might live somewhere where there is a homeowners association that says you can't grow any of your own food. I don't know what your situation is, but if you have any patch of soil whatsoever and you have the ability to do that, and you can do this in the winter as well, then you can grow your own food almost for free. It is something that you won't have immediate reward for, right? It's something you have to invest in the future. But growing your own food is absolutely huge, because just like preparing your own food, you can grow that plant from a seed with the intention that it is going to grow into something that can raise your frequency and vibration, that can nourish your body, that can deliver the vital nutrients and minerals that your body is lacking, that you need so profoundly, right? And if you do that, tending to this plant daily, whatever it is, every time imbuing it with love and compassion and all of these things, it is going to take that energy and it's going to turn it into something that you can eat. And you will get returns on that tenfold, at least. So a tomato, as an example, grown that way, is going to be 100 times better for you than something you go buy at Walmart. That was factory farmed and sprayed with pesticides and grown from genetically modified seeds, using artificial fertilizer and all sorts of chemicals that are terrible for you, right? I mean, the difference is staggering with what you can do with that. Unfortunately, I live in an apartment. There are workarounds for a lot of this. It is possible to grow in an apartment. It's possible to grow some of your own food anyway, entirely indoors. It's a lot more difficult, but it is possible. But let's just say, even if that's not possible for you, no matter what, there's no way you can grow your own food. That is just one thing that you can do. It's not a must. It's not something you have to do. Thank you, Mary and Melissa, for your follows. I appreciate that. But I would say this, Empress, if you are in a situation to where no matter what, you do not have the ability to grow your own food, then for me personally, I would be trying to change that situation. I would want to change that environment to make it to where you can grow your own food, because then you're not paying for your own food. Then you're able to give your body exactly what it needs, most likely for free or dirt cheap, and possibly even growing money, because what you don't eat you can sell or trade for other goods or services. Gotta switch to only whole foods, and yeah, I plan on growing most of my own food. I gave up my house on 2 acres to get out of a toxic relationship. I don't blame you one bit, and I'm not here to say that you done, right or wrong by doing that. But that is huge, and that is important, and congrats on that, my friend. All I was saying is that I think that is important for everybody. I do think the time is coming soon in this generation to where factory farming will be a thing of the past. Supermarkets, grocery stores, all of those things, to me, I foresee those things becoming a thing of the past. And those who do not have the ability to grow their own food will have to find the ability to grow their own food or to find it somewhere else. So I do think it is really important to have that ability, at least to know how to do it. And especially if you're on a budget where you can't afford to go to a supermarket and buy the best high quality food that you need. then all the more reason to get in an environment where you can afford to grow it yourself. Or, as Cynthia said, you can donate the food to a food pantry, which gives you huge returns as well. So anyway, now that we've covered that, let's say your situation is you don't have the ability right now to grow food. But again, you can do all of the things that we covered, with setting the intention, with eating and consuming the food with the right energy and vibration, with imbuing the food with the right energy as you prepare it. So you've already got a huge leg up on that. So what kind of foods can you eat on a ramen noodle budget, right? Because you can't go buy all of the super high dollar, high quality foods that you normally can. I don't know where you live, but one thing that I would recommend is trying to find a natural food store, if that is at all possible where you're at. Most towns have one, even if it's a relatively small town. And usually, I won't say always, but usually you can get much better quality food from a place like that versus a big box store. And usually even cheaper, especially if you can buy it in bulk. And you can usually get the stuff that is not, it might not even necessarily be organic, right? But perhaps it's not genetically modified. Perhaps it's not sprayed with all sorts of pesticides and things like that. Farmers markets are also a really good idea. I would definitely check into that if you haven't done that already. And then, once you have, make sure with your environment and your circumstances, if this is your intention, that you're getting your food from the best possible source you can. If there's only one store in your town where you can buy food, then the option is simple, right? If Walmart is your only option, then it's a good place to start, right? Then good. Then you're going to have a little bit more of a challenge, right? Then you're going to have to get to know the best possible options for you with working with what you've got. But you can start from that, even if it's just Walmart and that's all you can do. There are certain foods that are much better for you than others, even on a very limited budget. Anything that turns light into food is going to be naturally much higher in frequency and vibration than something that consumes something else that turns light into food and then turns that into protein or whatever. So any type of fruit is much higher in vibration than animal products, right? In any type of vegetable in general is going to be higher in vibration. Switch to only whole foods, one ingredient items. Eat quality food but less quantity. Yeah, that is something that is true. Like, the better quality food that you are digesting, the less food that you're going to require. Because you're getting the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that your body needs. Whereas if you're eating a bunch of garbage, you could be eating it by the shovelful, and your body is still screaming at you that it's starving because it's not getting what it needs. And it's trying everything it can to get what it needs. High fiber foods is another excellent idea. One thing that I personally think is really good for you, I know there's conflicting information about it everywhere. Like I've said before, it don't matter what the topic is. If you search hard enough on the internet, you can find 15 sources that says this is the best thing in the world for you, and 15 sources that say whatever you do, don't eat this. It's terrible for you. There's conflicting information everywhere, right? So that's another reason why I say it's individualistic. It's different for each of us. But in general, I think a very cheap and cost-effective food that is good for you, with moderation. Anything without moderation can be bad for you. Oatmeal is something that is actually nutritionally good for you. It's high in soluble fiber, but I would stay away from oatmeal if you cannot get it organic. And most big box stores like Walmart do not carry it organic. And the main reason for that is because oat is one of those plants that are coated with pesticides, but it absorbs into the grain. And so if you're eating traditionally factory farmed oatmeal, it has a high concentration of all sorts of neurotoxins and pesticides and chemicals that are very bad for you. Avocados. You guys are making me hungry. What's really interesting, I don't know if you guys know this or if you've noticed this or not, but you guys have probably heard the Hippocratic Oath, right? Or you've heard of doctors taking that before. But do you know what that oath is? It comes from Hippocrates, who was the first, according to Western civilization, the first physician. And he said, "Let food be your medicine, and let medicine be your food." And that's not just an empty saying. That was an entire philosophy. And that's what medical practitioners in the West are saying when they take that oath. But you guys have probably surmised that's not the reality, at least not in the United States. And where I'm going with this is there is a food that is a natural component and remedy for almost any ailment that you can have in the body. If you have an issue with your kidneys, of course everyone knows cranberries, right? Cranberry juice is really good for you, especially if it's something like just cranberry juice, not something with 5% cranberry juice, half a gallon of sugar, and then a bunch of apple juice to sweeten it even further. But kidney beans, you know why they're called kidney beans? Because they resemble a kidney. They're also very good for your kidneys. It literally looks like a kidney. One of the best foods you can consume for your brain is a walnut. Have you ever cracked open a walnut and looked and seen what it looks like? Kind of looks like a little brain. It's wild. But that is all throughout nature. And some of the best foods that you can consume for specific parts of our body or specific organs of our body look just like the food. It's almost like it was designed that way so that we would figure this out. It's kind of awesome. Eat organic buckwheat cereal instead of oatmeal. Yeah, I agree with you on that. There's definitely better things to do. But oatmeal is pretty cheap. You can get a huge bucket of that for a few dollars, even organic. And it goes a very long way. And especially if you're eating oatmeal unsweetened. I know this isn't for everybody. Everybody can't stomach it. But one of my favorite breakfasts in the world is whole oats, first of all. Like, I can do the steamed and rolled oats. Better yet is steel cut oat because it's not processed at all. It takes a lifetime to cook, but it has a whole lot better nutritional value for you. But you take that and you cook it and don't sweeten it at all. And then I season it with cinnamon, which is metabolically one of the best things you can consume. And then sprinkle in a little bit of wild blueberries into it. And it's absolutely fantastic, in my opinion. It's not like, the really sweet, like sugary stuff that like most people would want to eat oatmeal. But to me it tastes a lot better. And not only are you eating a whole grain that has a lot of vitamins and nutrients in it because it's not processed, But then you're putting cinnamon in it, which is excellent for your blood, excellent for your metabolism. It naturally balances out your blood sugar levels, among other things. And then you're putting wild blueberries in it, which are full of antioxidants and tons of other good things. And that mixes with the soluble fiber of the oatmeal. And it's a pretty complete meal. And it's not expensive at all. Like I said, you can get an entire bucket of organic steel-cut oats relatively cheaply. And it goes a very long way. Yeah, at first, do no harm. I missed that part. Thank you, guys. Trader Joe's has some healthy options. Thank you for that, Cynthia. I've actually not ever been there. I was just typing the walnut. Yes, God is real indeed, my friend. Ain't avocado looks like the gallbladder. Cook oatmeal with dates and cinnamon. I've never tried it with dates. I bet that is really good. Honey would be a much better alternative than sugar. And yeah, I mean, anything, just about anything is better than refined sugar. Honey has a really high glycemic index. It's like getting yourself an injection of glycogen or glucose, basically, whenever you eat honey. But it is very high vibrational. It has nutritional value, especially if it is wild honey or organic honey sourced locally. If you guys have allergies, by the way, if you have problems with seasonal allergies, eating locally sourced honey is one of the best things you can do, especially if the bees are kept right. If it is essentially factory farmed, where it isn't, the bees are in a controlled environment and they're only allowed to pollinate certain flowers, then it's not going to have the same effect. But if this is a local beekeeper who allows the bees to go wherever they want to go and pollinate whatever they want to pollinate, then you will get natural immunity to all of those allergens and pollen through that honey, and it strengthens your immune system. So yeah, honey is an excellent idea if you need it sweetened. I have some steel cut oats and they do take forever. Yeah, you might want to start those like a month or two before you're ready to eat them. Okay, it's not that bad, but you will learn patience, I'll say that. I love dates. Blueberries on top. I'm drinking a date smoothie right now. Honeybee is puke. Getting some lion's mane infused honey. Interesting. I've never even heard of that. I need to look into that. Yeah, raisins have a high sugar content as well. Yeah, it's also a good antibiotic. It's good for a lot of things. Dates are nature's candy. I keep a jar of honey by me and eat it by itself almost daily. I don't know if I could do that. I absolutely love honey, but man, it's I can tell when I eat honey. I'll say that. I get like an immediate rush, like almost a high off of it. Empress, I've not heard of Roots Apothecary. I'll go check that out. Very interesting, though. All right, everybody. So I've probably only got about another 15 minutes for the live tonight. If you guys have any other things that you want to discuss or ask me or topics or whatever, or if you guys would rather just spend the last 15 minutes talking about these things and sharing advice and experiences for foods, affordable foods that can help you raise your vibration. Eating royal honey is very healthy. Yeah. I have so much honey. Ginger, turmeric, and dandelion. chat coming in hot with the suggestions.
I chose Wix for my business because of its massive scope for functionality and free.
Not me sitting here eating caramel popcorn. I hope you are uploading this to YouTube. I will. I tried last night. I haven't uploaded last night yet. I tried to just screen record on my phone. That way it would show all of the comments. And it worked. But at the same time, the feed was acting crazy for me. The TikTok feed kept freezing. And it kept trying to force close the app on me like every 5 or 10 seconds. And it also, my phone got hot and acted like it was draining the battery. I don't know if that was for me screen recording or not, but it's not been doing that tonight. So I kind of think that me screen recording the live was problematic. So either way, I did that. So once I upload that one to the YouTube channel, last night's live will be on there as well. But yes, Empress, I will upload this one to YouTube for you. I did the bay leaf and had an excellent... Oh, wow. That's awesome. I certainly didn't get you to 50,000 likes. My tabs weren't going through. Well, sorry about that, but I do appreciate the gesture and all of the exercising of your thumbs that you're doing. I appreciate you guys. Max, I believe it is Magi God's Warrior, if I'm not mistaken, but there is an easier way to do it as opposed to trying to search me out. If you just go to my profile here on TikTok, in my bio, there's a link tree. Thank you for the trumpets, my friend. If you click on that link tree, there's a whole slew of things that will pop up. But one of them is my YouTube channel. And if you just click on that, it'll take you right to the YouTube channel. Screen record the live with a different phone. Yeah, I might have to start trying that. I've tried about everything else at this point. I can download them on TikTok and load them. And it works perfectly fine, but the main issue is it does not show any of the comments. And half of what I talk about on the live is reading other people's comments and reacting to them. And so if you just go and you watch that video without knowing what I'm doing, it probably looks like I'm half drunk or something. Thank you for all the trumpets, my friend. Very kind of you. Yes, that's what it is. Yeah, I kind of figured it was. TikTok's not is acting up yet, and we're not even at thank you for reaching that goal for me. I do appreciate you guys. I can already feel the effects of Mercury retrograde a good deal. I will say that. It's probably going to hit me pretty hard this time. Trying to think if there's anything else I was supposed to mention while I was on here, and I can't think of it right off the top of my head. In case any of you guys didn't gather or did not hear what I was talking about earlier, I am finally going to begin uploading each of the lives onto YouTube. So if you want to follow it, and something comes up and you miss a live, or your phone dies on you or whatever, or if maybe we just mentioned something that you found really interesting and you want to go back and revisit that or whatever, I'm going to begin uploading each of those to the YouTube channel if you're interested in that. The easiest way, again, to get there is to go to my profile on TikTok, click in the link in my bio, and then there is a link for everything on there. There's a link to my biblical reincarnation research proposal, a link for the Magic Me Facebook group, a link for the Telegram Inner Circle group, which I strongly encourage all of you guys to participate in who wants to be more involved with this soul group community. And there's also a link for the YouTube channel. Thank you, babe, for helping me mention that. Retrograde again. Yes, indeed. You are very welcome, Empress. I will do my best to make sure and get them uploaded for you. But hold my feet to the fire if I don't, just to remind me, because I have a lot of stuff going on, and I usually have a a pretty strong chance of forgetting something. I'm really terrible about telling you guys, oh yes, I'm going to do this. Like last night. I just now realized last night I showed a map, the Hindu map, showing the entire mapping of our chakra system and the energy meridians that run throughout our body. I held it up, showed everyone, and then I was asked, hey, will you upload a picture of that to Telegram? And I said, yes, of course I will. And I forgot all about it. So if I tell you guys I'm going to do something and then I don't do it, please remind me. I will not take offense to it. I will be grateful for you for reminding me, because I'm terrible about forgetting stuff. Thank you, Christine. I really appreciate that. I just started uploading the live, so most of everything else before this is not going to be up there. I think I've only uploaded one of them so far, and I will have 2 more to upload. Yes, Cynthia. Mercury interrupts communication. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, the planet. The energy from the universe manifests through the planet of Mercury many different ways, but it is the ruler of communication. Whenever it is stationed direct, Mercury helps us to communicate. It helps us in all manner of communication. And communication is not just our ability to speak, it's our ability to listen, our ability to understand, to articulate our thought, and all manner of things. It's much more than just speech. Whenever it goes retrograde, which means it appears to stop and then start to reverse its direction, whenever that happens, the energy tends to reverse. So you might not be getting the full benefit of communication, right? People will begin stumbling over words, misspeaking, failing to articulate what they're trying to say very well. Perhaps you might be trying to say something to a loved one and it comes out completely wrong. Or maybe they receive it wrong, right? That's really common during Mercury retrograde. Well, thank you, Christine. I do appreciate that. I did the bay leaf before bed last night and woke up in the night, remembered my dream. That is awesome, my friend. Brock, thank you for thank you for mentioning that. I just realized when I was talking about all the different links in my link tree, I mentioned every single one of them except for the tip jar. I did. It wasn't intentional, but subconsciously I just filtered that out because I am terrible about self-promotion, and I don't want to feel like I'm asking for money and stuff. But if any of you guys decide that you wanted to financially support me or give me a tip in whatever fashion that is, I do have a tip jar set up in the link in my bio where you can send money to me if you wish. And I will say this. I get almost 100% of it that way. If you were to send a gift on here through TikTok, I don't get 100% of that. TikTok gets the majority of that. And personally, I think that's a little bit unfair because they don't really explain that very well to people who are spending their hard-earned money on gifts, or even those who are receiving it. But thank you, Brock, for bringing that up because I'm terrible about mentioning that. Better late than never. True story. I know, Empress. Everyone is still waiting on their chart. And I do apologize for that. But I will say this. I am doing something different in a couple of weeks. And I will be able to focus so much more of my time on this community, on fulfilling my calling and my obligations. And that is going to be the very first thing that I dedicate myself to. And my hope and my intention is to actually be through those before I get to that point. But I'm not going to guarantee that because I do have a whole lot going on. Cynthia, I have experienced issues with my sleep patterns, and I'm chalking that up personally to the Schumann resonance, spikes, and solar flares, space weather. Thank you for your patience, Empress. I do appreciate you. Gonna make him blush if you're not careful. Thank you, Brock. I really appreciate you. That's already happening to me. I just realized how far behind I got on my comments again. So the TikTok's trying to freeze on me again, guys. Trying to get caught up on the comments here. I've tried breathing exercises and listened to theta waves for nature sounds. Sorry the live's freezing, guys. I do appreciate that. I appreciate you guys being patient and waiting with me. Christine says that also the majority of us are deficient in magnesium, and that lacks and contributes to anxiety and depression. I completely agree with you, which is why during these times of increased space weather, when the Schumann resonance spikes and goes off the chart, that's why I say grounding is huge. It's very important. And not only that, take Epsom salt baths. It will help tremendously with that because of the magnesium content, and you will absorb it through your skin, and it will help a lot. But on that note, guys, I am going to sign off for tonight. It is that time. Waiting on the magnesium spray. That's probably a much more effective alternative to Epsom salt baths. But I love each and every one of you guys. Thank you for your time and your energy. Thank you for what you bring to this community. I am eternally grateful for you guys for helping me to build this community and make it into what it is. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate you. Thank you, Brock. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic night. I will not be live tomorrow, but I will be on Monday. I'm not sure how long of a live it will be on Monday yet. We'll just have to see how that goes. But I will be traveling again on Monday. So until then, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Make sure to stay hydrated, as Aaron likes to say. But I love you all. Have a great night.